everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney, and today we are going to talk a little bit more about jeans and jean making. So if you've been following along the series or my channel really at all this month, you'll know that this month is jeans making month for Sew My Style. I'm one of the leaders this month, and I've been doing, I've had I guess just one tutorial go up so far. I've got 2 tutorials coming next week, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But I also kind of talked about notions and buying fabric and that kind of thing earlier in the month. And so I had a lot of questions on that video and thought it might just be easy to come on here and answer some of those questions live and in person. And then, you know, give you guys, let's see, you're seeing this on Friday, and so this gives you a little over like 10 days or so to get your jeans made up before the end of the month. Before, let's see, a week from Sunday will be the reveal day for the jeans making for Sew My Style. Okay, so I have a list right here of questions that people have kind of asked. Things that I wasn't going to be covering in the tutorials that I thought, because, you know, there were small things that I thought might just be easy to address all at once here. So I'm going to be looking down at my list here. Okay, the first question that I had here, let's talk about pockets, both the front pockets and the back pockets. All right, so these are a pair of actually ginger jeans, which are not a pattern for this month, but I feel like you can see things better. Actually, no, I'm not going to show you those. I'm going to show you one of the jean patterns for this month. Well, I will show you the gingers when we're talking about back pockets, because they have a little different back pocket. Okay, pockets and pocketing. So these are the quadra jeans. I made these for my husband, and I had someone asking me about when you're doing the pocketing. So the idea, let me open these up so we can kind of see in here a little bit better, is that when you're putting your jeans on, you see the right side of the fabric in your pants. And she said that she was just having a hard time conceptualizing that, and that it never worked out right, and that she never had the right side going the right way. So I just wanted to talk about that for real quick. Okay, so my favorite thing to use for pocketing is actually fat quarters, like quilting cotton fat quarters. They're the perfect size, and quilting cotton, especially in jeans, as long as it's a thicker pair of jeans and as long as it's not white denim. My very first pair of white denim that I made the mistake of using some scraps in my stash that had stripes on them. And guess what? You can see that through that white denim. So I have learned if I'm making anything with white denim, it needs to be like, well, for my skin tone, I use muslin, and that always works really well. It just kind of blends in with my skin tone and you can't see the pockets. But for any other kind of denim, I like to use something fun. So I find that a fat quarter that you can get, really, a lot of times they'll even have them on sales and stuff, you know, pre-cut ones at various fabric stores. But usually they come in like really fun prints, and so it's fun to see that on the inside of your pants. And again, it's a sturdier cotton, and I find that that's just, if you use your pockets at all, it's a much better pocketing. So, my advice, when you cut out your pattern pieces, with all the jean patterns I've ever sewn, you have your pocketing piece, and usually it's gigantic and then it gets folded in on itself, kind of. Well, you've got a pocket facing, and that is actually this part of the jean right here that you're seeing. The coin pocket always goes on the pocket facing, but it's this piece, because see, if I pull this out, you'll see that that is just attached to the pocketing. It doesn't go all the way back there. So that gets attached to the wrong side of your fabric. And from henceforth, the wrong side of your fabric becomes the right side of your fabric, if that makes sense. So when you're constructing the pocket, so when you are sewing your pocketing to the curve here in the front, where they tell you right sides together, that will be the right side. And once you've attached, so then when everything is turned inside out, because technically the right side of your fabric is on the inside of your pants. And who cares what the pocketing looks like on the inside? No one sees that. But then you'll have all the color and print on the inside of the pant where you can see it. Does that make sense? So you want to attach your pocket facing to the wrong side of the fabric, and then when you're going through your directions and everything, that, you know, the wrong side becomes or the side without the print, I'll say it that way. The side without the print, the ugly side becomes the right side of your fabric, and the pretty side becomes the wrong side of your fabric. And that is how you will get the pretty side on the inside of your pants. Another thing kind of fun about using fat quarters for pocketing is that you can, a lot of times they come in the same, like, it'll be like a series or a collection, like a quilting collection that's meant to be made, you know, make a quilt out of it. And this one's actually from this same grouping. But it's kind of fun, I think, too, to use two similar but not fabrics for the inside. So I've got a polka dot on one side of his jeans and like a squiggle on the other. Again, something only he'll see when he's putting his pants on and off, but I think that's a lot of fun. Okay, so that's the answer to the question about the pocketing, to get the pretty side of the fabric on the inside of the pants. All right, I also had a couple of questions about back pockets. Okay, most patterns come with, you know, your standard back pocket, you know, that has the, you know, the sides like this, and I think, I'm not sure about the Ames jeans, but I do know that the Ash and the Dawn, and then at least the Quadra, I'm assuming the Fulford as well, but they've got, you know, just a very, you know, straight sides for the back pocket. Now, Closet Case, their jeans, the Ginger jeans, it's kind of hard to see on the pants, but on the side nearest the, let me get the other pair, it's hard to see on the white. On the side nearest the center back seam, how many pairs of jeans can I have in one video? This is actually curved. Can you see that? And I think that's very flattering. That's something that Heather Lou from Closet Case did on purpose to give a little bit more of a flattering line to the rear end. And I do find it very flattering, but it does, you have to be careful when you're pressing it though to top stitch it onto your pants because you don't want to press it flat. You want to keep the curve in there. But it is very flattering. Now, as far as jean placement when you're putting your back pockets onto your pants, I have learned that I like my pockets right below the yoke because that's where I like them on my body. Now, if you're making your, so see, look how close these pockets are to the yoke. That is what I like on my body. If I go too much lower than that, probably because I'm short everywhere, but it looks like my pockets are creeping down onto the back of my legs, which gives the illusion of almost a droopy butt. But my suggestion is that when you are making your jeans, don't top stitch them down onto the back, you know, onto the place in the back when you're constructing the back of the pants, which is usually where they tell you to put them on. I would go ahead and baste them on in that spot where the pattern tells you to. And then when you get to the point in making your jeans where you can try them on, because if it's a new pattern, I will a lot of times, when I get to the part where I'm sewing the out seams, so the outside seams of the jeans, I'll just baste those and then I'll baste the waistband on. So to keep it from kind of stretching out, and then you can try on at that point. And then if you need to make any, you know, take anything out or let anything in on the side seams, and then also I put the waistband on just because it gives a little more stability to the pants and you can kind of see where it's going to hit. But at that point you can turn around or have someone take a picture of the back of you to decide if you want to raise or lower your pockets from that point. And then usually you know, it's kind of across the board. Like I said, I just like mine pretty close to the yoke. And so I will usually raise the pocket just a hair on my patterns. So yes, that's how I determine the pocket. And again, I think that curved line is probably maybe a little bit more flattering, but I find that the regular, you know, pocket on the Ash and on the Dawn to be, you know, just as flattering. But again, if you have a different looking rear end than I do, you may disagree. You also, there's been a lot of talk about size, so not only shape, but size. So if you get something, you want something that fills the cheek, but doesn't get overly fill the cheek. And I should have brought I didn't bring them down, my Dawn jeans that I made out of the men's jeans that I had thrifted. I'll pop a link up to that video actually, where I made a pair of jeans out of a thrifted men's pair of jeans. I just used the original pockets on those just because there was already a spot for them. I wish I would have cut them down because they're meant for a man's butt. And so they're big. They're too big. I mean, they're not horrible, but they are too big. So I wish I would have cut the pockets down to the my pattern piece size, but I didn't, so I'll live with that. But yeah, you definitely don't want anything too small or too big, because otherwise, you know, you don't want it, you want it centered right kind of on your cheek. But again, guys, it's just sewing. It can be one of those things that maybe you make a pair of jeans and you decide those are a little too small. So the next time you can change it. You know, it's not, you know, the end all be all. I'm kind of that way in all things sewing, that done is better than perfect. So, you know, you get to a point where you just want to make a pair of jeans. And I will tell you, the first pair of jeans that you make, you're going to be so proud that you've made a pair of jeans that the size and shape of the pockets on your butt just really isn't going to matter at all. It's just a really good, it's a high almost, a sewing high, a good milestone or a definite bucket list of sewing items, if you will. And yeah, I have found that, you know, it doesn't really matter, you know, every little detail. So, okay, so that covers pockets. And I've lost my list. There it is. Okay. All right, so back pockets. Okay, someone asked about the buttonhole in the waistband. Yes. She said that she could, all the tutorials she found on YouTube had people putting in a buttonhole flat, not what, like you would for a pair of jeans when the waistband's already made up. So I have a couple of tips for that. Now, obviously, so these are made up in a cotton sateen. Again, these are the ones I made for Sew My Style, and you'll be seeing these next Friday for the Sew My Style reveal, actually, like on my body. These have the best pockets in them. I use scraps from another project. Anyway. So if you're using something like a little bit lighter weight than your normal denim, the buttonhole you shouldn't have any issue in really at all. But when you get into like actual like heavy duty denim, or especially the stretch denim, sorry, I've got all the jeans here in my lap, like my husband's jeans here, and I'm also using top stitching thread here as well. My advice is, number one, so inside of this waistband, you've got your seam allowances from here that are going up, and then, well, I guess this one just folded in on itself. Sorry, this waistband just folds down and gets top stitched. So actually this one is an easy one because you don't have any of the bulk up here. But again, you want your buttonhole, and this one I made maybe a little too high and a little too close to the edge. Like it could be down just a little bit and maybe in just a hair. But you just want to make sure and trim as much of that bulk out as you can. And that usually means, for me, when you've got a lot of layers, like with the fly, like this is a button fly on these pants, you've got a lot right up here at the top when you've sewn this waistband on with the first pass. So when you've sewn it to the pants and you haven't, you know, flipped it over or sewn the facing down yet, I just go in and trim as much of that bulk out as I can. Also, the bulk at the end of the waistband as well. So, I mean, you don't want to trim it super, super close, but that's the key. That's what's going to make your sewing machine enjoy enjoy it and not fight it for you. Also, before you do that, buttonhole, again, the rubber mallet. I have a wooden one, but a rubber mallet, just hammer the living daylights out of that area, and your buttonhole will go in like a dream. I do put fray check on my buttonholes. I do this anytime I make a buttonhole, but I put a line of fray check on the front and on the back before I cut it open, and then just let that set so that hopefully it will help things, you know, keep from unraveling, and I feel like it strengthens the buttonhole maybe a little bit, especially if you're going in and out with a button constantly like you would for a pair of jeans. But yes. Okay, so let me know if that doesn't answer that question, but that's just really kind of my tips for keeping things nice and flat in that area, because yeah, it can be a very bulky area, but you do want it not so much in the middle of the waistband, but a little more towards the top. So if you do have a facing you've sewn on and it hasn't just folded over on itself, just trim that back, you know, and maybe even grade your seams where one seam allowance is a little bit longer than the other, and that's just going to help reduce a lot of that bulk at that area, so that your machine will sew that buttonhole like it's supposed to. Okay. Next question. Okay, someone had asked about dye transfer. So meaning, you know, if you've got a pair of darker jeans, which most of the good denim comes in like a darker wash, because, drop my list. In all honesty, these jeans, I've got a snoring dog next to me, these jeans that look, I mean, they're still dark, but they look much bluer, but they were about the same color as this when I first made them. So you can kind of see the difference in a brand new pair of jeans and ones that have been washed a lot. But I have always heard, honestly, in fact my hands might even be blue by the time, just because I've been handling these new jeans a lot. But yes, it will rub off on furniture. It will rub off on your, definitely on your hands when you're actually sewing with it. But yeah, even after the first, you know, many washes, you may get some rub off. Now I will say it doesn't stain anything. We have a light colored couch and I panicked when I made my first pair of jeans because I had gotten some blue tint to the place where I sit on our couch. But it just kind of wore off. It wasn't there very long. But I have heard that vinegar, washing your denim in vinegar helps to set the dye and keep some of the rub off from, or the transfer from happening. But then Mary Enos, one of my lovely viewers, said that washing them a couple of times in Coca-Cola also helps with dye transfer. And I've not tried this, but I think that's a very interesting idea and I wanted to pass that along to you guys. So I've heard vinegar, but she also said that washing them in Coca-Cola a couple of times. And I don't know if that means like pouring the Coke in like a tub, you know, like a small tub, and then just like submerging them and letting them sit a little bit and then washing them. But yes, that was her suggestion. So that might be worth trying out if you're having big issues with that indigo transferring. Okay. Oh, before we move on, I want to talk about a little bit more about the waistband. All right, I had mentioned in my previous video that I do not interface my waistbands, and that is true, especially if I'm using a stretch denim, and actually this is stretch denim that I made for my husband. I do not use interfacing. Every single pair of ready-to-wear jeans that I've ever taken apart or ever altered, because I had an alteration business before this, never, ever was there interfacing in the waistband. But, and I said that in the first video, but I forgot as I started sewing up a whole bunch of these pairs, I'm like, oh my gosh, but I do put interfacing right behind where the buttonhole is and where the button is. So a little bit of a misnomer there. So I interface any of the fly pieces that I'm using for the button fly or a zip fly. So that means like a fly extension gets interfaced, the actual fly gets interfaced. That I do use interfacing there. But then I will put a piece of interfacing just in the front of that. And I always wait till the jeans are made up, because sometimes the waistband pieces are a little bit longer. Just, you know, if you had to make any adjustments. So I wait until the waistband is on, and then I will sew a piece of interfacing at both where the buttonhole is going to go and where the actual button's going to go. And I sew it on, or fuse it on both sides, you know, both the waistband and the waistband facing in those areas, just to keep that area stable. But other than that, no, I don't put any interfacing in the waistbands. Okay, so I wanted to definitely make that comment. Okay, another little tip that someone had mentioned, and it's something that I do. I know it's a luxury and not everyone has this advantage, but I have multiple sewing machines. So if you do have access to a second sewing machine, and if you are making jeans, you know, that have the contrasting top stitching thread. Now, so those jeans do, but like when I'm sewing white jeans, for instance, I just use white thread for my top stitching, so I don't change my thread out. I just use the same thread that I'm using for to actually sew the jeans for the top stitching, and I did the same in these dusty pink ones. I actually used kind of a taupe colored thread, so it has a little bit of contrast, but if you can see that. But it's also, that's the thread that I used. I didn't have any of this dusty pink thread, so that's actually the thread I used to construct the jeans, which actually makes jean construction fly if you're not having to go back and forth. But if you do have access to a second machine, having a machine set up with your top stitching thread and then a machine set up with your thread that you're actually sewing the jeans with does make a gigantic difference and will make it like a breeze. You'll fly through making a pair of jeans if you're not having to constantly change back and forth, because there's a lot of parts in jean making where you'll be going, you know, you'll have to top stitch these down and then you're going back to sewing a seam and then it has to be top stitched because of just the order of where things need to go. So if you have a separate machine set up with the top stitching thread, that does help expedite jean making. Again, I know that's a luxury and not everyone has that, but if you even have access to another machine, if you could, you know, if you're gonna make a pair of jeans or a couple pair of jeans and want to borrow a machine, although jean making can be a little hard on machines, so maybe, I don't know, or even thrifting an inexpensive machine, you know, to have if you're planning on making a lot of jeans. Now I will say, with thrifting machines, as long as you get a machine that works, the older the machine and the more metal that's on that machine, the more of a beast that machine is, and the better it's going to actually handle the heavier duty jean, you know, the denim and that kind of thing. And they're also much easier to fix than today's computerized machines. So just wanted to say that, just wanted to put that out there. But again, if you're pounding your seams with your mallet, and I will talk about that here at the end, if pounding them flat, you're gonna notice a huge difference and that your machine doesn't struggle nearly as bad as it would if you're just using an iron and just pressing. So, okay, so there's that. All right, last thing I wanted to talk about was rivets, because someone had asked about that. All right, I talked a lot about the different jean making kits that you can purchase, and you can buy rivets at Joann's and I'm sure other fabric stores online. You can find them on Amazon. Again, I was showing you some of the jean making kits that you can purchase, but I wanted to show you the anatomy of a rivet without dumping all of these on the floor. All right, so a rivet has two parts. First you have, and this is the part that's gonna be familiar to you. Like, that's the rivet, that's the front, that's what you see on the jeans. And then it has kind of a little socket that's on the back. This is the post ooh, that goes into the back of a rivet. Okay, so when you're installing rivets, I use an awl, which you can get at a hardware store, any hardware store, but you're gonna make a hole with your awl, and then this post goes in through the back. You want to make sure, I have never made a pair of jeans, and this includes like even working with the heavier denim, where I have kept that entire post length. That's going to be too long, and when you hammer that into, when you hammer your rivet on top of that, like so, it's going to be too long, and that post is going to come through the face of your rivet. So what I do, I have a pair of wire cutters, again from the hardware store, and I will push this through my denim. I've noticed that where the coin pocket rivet, I'll show you a pair of jeans too and where I put rivets, but where I stick it for the coin pocket is probably the most layers of denim that it ever goes through. But I will take these and I will trim this post down almost to where the fabric is. Just a teeny bit above where it comes through the fabric, because when you compress the fabric really good and put that rivet on and then turn it upside down and hammer the living daylights out of the back of it with an actual hammer, it's gonna, you know, compress that denim, and you'll get a really nice, it'll hang on really nice, and you won't have, this will not come through your rivet, if that makes sense. So you want to trim it probably shorter than you would think you would. Also, when installing rivets, you want to make sure that you are hammering those things, and you hammer them from the back side. So you're hammering this post part, but you want to make sure that the rivet part is on a really hard surface, such as concrete or a cast iron skillet or I know that sometimes you can find like little bitty anvils, something along those lines. You need that super, super hard surface or else you will not be able to get a rivet set. I have a unfinished part of our basement that has a concrete floor, and that's what I use. I just go into the nasty part of the basement, and I will be sitting on the floor hammering all of my rivets and my jeans buttons in on that hard floor. Okay, so let me show you real quick. I put rivets in the same spots on all of my jeans, but I always do a rivet right here on the coin pocket, and then a rivet right here where the pocket kind of meets the side seam. And then I put on the outside edge of my back pockets only. I guess you could put them on both, but I just do the outside edge. Those get a rivet too. So I use 5 rivets for each pair of jeans. So that was also a question. Okay, I think that's it. I think that kind of answers all the little bits and bobs and questions that I had. Sorry. After the first video that I did with jean making. All right, now I've had a lot of people comment. I had an exposed button fly that went up on Tuesday, and I will pop a link up there to that video up here. And then this coming Tuesday, I have just a regular button fly, or like a hidden button fly, I guess, however you want to call that. So that'll be going up Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, I've gone through seam finishes and kind of what seams go where on the jeans, and then an actual tutorial on how to do a flat fell seam, which when I make jeans only goes on, it's the inseam seam is the only one that I flat fell. But I'll talk all about that on Wednesday. And then next Friday, I have the Sew My Style reveal where you can see all, I've made 3 pairs of jeans this month. I made one pair for my husband, I made a pair of Dawn shorts for myself, and a pair of Ash jeans out of this cotton sateen for myself as well. So I will be modeling all of that and talking a little bit more about the patterns all on next Friday. Okay, so that wraps it up for now. As soon as we've wrapped up jean making month, we're delving right back into modules. I have my, basically my whole summer, it's the Module 2 lookbook, but then I'm throwing in a few things from my closet, and I think I might be able to hit actually a 3rd module just out of pulling things from the spring capsule, and being able to create a 3rd module pretty easily. But I'll have the whole full lookbook for you the following Tuesday, and then I'm starting my transitional wardrobe, I guess. I've got a couple of collaborations with a couple of fabric stores, and I'll be doing a kind of a couple modules for that. So it'll be like my early fall, I guess, kind of like wardrobe, late summer, early fall type wardrobe, things that can go into the colder weather kind of. Okay, so if you have not already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the fun stuff we've got going. Give me a thumbs up if you like this type of video, and I will see you guys on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you then. Bye!